What's good? Happy Monday, Lucky Lefty Podcast. And you know it is game week. Game week. And we are brought to you by ONORA Whiskey, ONORAWhiskey.com. It is that premium American whiskey, ONORAWhiskey.com. And of course, if you're going to drink, you might as well do it
responsibly.
You got to do it responsibly.
And if I am a reflection of him, then I must be fly, because if you like to shine so bright, I wouldn't lie.
Lucky Lefty Podcast brought to you by ONORA Whiskey, ONORAWhiskey.com. It is that premium American whiskey, ONORAWhiskey.com. And also, don't forget, subscribe to the YouTube page, Lucky Lefty Podcast. Hit the thumbs up, helps with the views. Share, and then leave your comments and questions. We respond to all. Audio edibles each and every day, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. And don't forget, dropping on Wednesday, Players Only. The only Notre Dame Players Only podcast this season will be right here on the Lucky Lefty Network. Each and every post-game show, the season preview drops Wednesday over at patreon.com. And we'll have a little special going, a little price dropping special going starting on Wednesday. Patreon.com/Lucky Lefty Network. X, Instagram at Lucky Lefty Pod. Lucky Lefty, forever committed to being the home of the misguided passion. And you already know we're going to keep it 100 because we spin it different. Yeah. Left. How was your weekend, bro? It's game week for you as well.
It's always good in the football season. It's always good, man. And I'm excited to see how it starts off.
So, LL question of the day. This is a series. This will be the sixth time that the Aggies and the Fighting Irish face off when they take the field Saturday evening, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. The sixth meeting, each have won one at home. Notre Dame is 2-1 neutral site meetings. All three of those meetings have been in the Cotton Bowl, as a matter of fact. So Notre Dame is 3-2 in the matchup. I think they're going to be 4-2 after Saturday night. So the LL question of the day: do you have any fond memories of the previous matchups with the Texas A&M Aggies? Any fond memories of the matchup with the Texas A&M Aggies? The last meeting didn't go so well for Notre Dame in 2001 as they lost 24-3. 24-3 as Bob Davie took his Fighting Irish down to his old stomping grounds where he was the defensive coordinator for the Aggies when they faced off in a couple of those Cotton Bowls. So there is a deep history and connection. The connection of Mike Elko being defensive coordinator at both places. Mike Elko facing two of his former players in this matchup. There are a lot of connections. As a matter of fact, as you look at this schedule left, there are a lot of former Notre Dame players / assistants that the Fighting Irish will be facing on their schedule this year. So that should make for interesting banter on the show.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Notre Dame does a great job of getting people to the next stage of their coaching career. And they always end up being in great circles. So to see us play a lot of the guys that were some former teammates to guys that have was coaching there and now moved on to bigger roles, it's just good to see Notre Dame have an influence in college football everywhere you go.
Well, I'm glad you led with that, Left, because influence is what most people believe Notre Dame has. I can't wait to get to the Mike Elko part of the show. I think Mike Elko showed a lot of respect to Notre Dame. He definitely knew the stats. He could rattle off the stats for each and every part of Notre Dame: special teams, offense, defense. Did a great job with that. But he was asked a certain question by, do you remember the name Olin Buchanan when we did the disrespect part of the show last week?
Yep.
when we play Olin Buchanan being a little bit disrespectful. Olin Buchanan, Hall of Fame voter, Heisman voter, longtime Houston Texans beat reporter. He used to be a Houston Astros beat reporter, and he's also the Texas A&M beat reporter for the Houston Chronicle. Very well respected. I booked him before during my times as a producer, and he asked a very interesting question. I can't wait to play it for you and the rest of ND Nation left, because I think there was a little bit of cap in what Mike Elko had to say, and I think he took the PC route. I think he gave some vibes that made it seem like he thought different, though. I really did. So we'll talk about that coming up, along with the depth chart. The depth chart was released. There's a lot of hubbub about, the ors, right? You get to certain positions and you see this name or that name. We'll talk about that because a lot of people were surprised by which names were first on the depth chart in those type of situations. We're going to hear from Marcus Freeman as well, Left. I'm going to play you some audio and let you fire off to let me know whether or not you like or dislike what Marcus Freeman is saying. And overall, we're going to give our initial thoughts about this matchup. Left, I want to start with this. The Cotton Bowls, let's start with 87. Historical background for Notre Dame fans with this rivalry with the Texans, if it is a rivalry. The 6 games that the 5 games they played, the 6th game will be on Saturday night. Just erase the word rivalry because it's not a rivalry. 3 matchups in the Cotton Bowl. The 87 matchup, just a horrible day. I remember watching it at a bowling alley. I was in a bowling league, and I remember watching this as a Notre Dame fan, running back and forth. I had to bowl the worst that I bowled all year, because I would literally throw a ball and immediately run to the TV. Like, I didn't even care what my score was. And this was in the days where you had to manually take the scores. Yep. We didn't have the digital scoreboards that they have now that keep score for you. So they would come and look for me like, Sean, it's your time to bowl. And I'm like, hey, man, I'm watching this game.
I'm watching the game, yeah.
And Texas A&M, they did it. They did a number on Lou Holtz in the squad that year. So the second game was even worse because now I'm angry. Now I'm ticked off, right? Notre Dame's getting blasted. Now I'm ticked off. I really don't care. I'm ready to end it and go to White Castle like I do every week and grab me 3 double cheeseburgers and a large fry, which back in the day, Left, it was $2.12. Oh my God, I miss those days. $2.12. Hey, I asked my dad for $3 every week. The White Castle was right on the other side of the bowling alley. Wow. 3 double cheeseburgers. Double cheeseburgers were 49 cents, Left.
49 cents.
49 cents. 49 cents back in the day. Large fry was 59.
Wow.
With tax back in the day, it was $2.12 every week. $2.12.
$2.12 on the dot.
Man, on the dot. That's all I needed. 3 double cheeseburgers and a large fry, my brother. That's when life was good, as Nas would say. Lucky Lefty podcast. So this is what sticks out about that 87 game. Lou Holtz tells a famous story. He talks about the lack of preparation. He took total accountability and responsibility for how unprepared his team was. He promised Notre Dame fans in this famous press conference that they would never see another Notre Dame team under his watch unprepared to play a game. And he pretty much kept up his end of the bargain. He really did. But this is something he had to say. He said, I know what I need to do, and I know some players I need to move on from. Because I walked in the locker room and there was a freshman in the corner crying that didn't play a snap. And it meant more to him than it did to some of the players that actually played in the game.
Wow.
I know what I have to do moving forward. After that, the very next year, Notre Dame wins their last championship to date in 1988. I'll give you one guess who that freshman was. I know some people in the chat know because they probably heard Lou Holtz tell this story. Who did you think that freshman was crying that didn't play one snap in that bowl game, but he was crying in the locker room?
Who?
It was Chris Zorge.
Oh, I know Chris Zorge. Okay.
It was Chris
Shout out,
Zorge.
good podcaster, Chris Zorge.
Yes, a good dude too. Still here in Chicago. Does a lot for the community. Love that brother. A long time Chicago Bear as well. So he's much beloved. Southside CBS High School. Let me tell you something, man. Those are the type of stories that you get, right? And then you go to the matchup in the Cotton Bowl in 1992, I believe. And this matchup, Notre Dame really had control of the entire game. And Texas A&M was really tough. That's the days when they had Dak Gwynn, Big Daddy Washington. I forget the other defensive tackle. I got Ryan Roberts. What's up, Double R's in the chat? Who was the other? Man, they had two behemoth defensive tackles on those two Texas A&M teams. Sam Adams. Yes. Sam Adams was the other one. You had Dak Gwynn. Aaron Glenn was in the secondary. Like that R.C. Slocum Texas A&M defense has some Quentin Coriat. They had some major talent. And Notre Dame pretty much handled that matchup in 92. 93, Corey Pullock was a little bit more experienced at the quarterback position. The running backs gave Notre Dame trouble out of the backfield in the passing game. They did a tremendous job with the quick passing game. And then Notre Dame in the second half kind of took over with the run game. Kevin McDougal made plays through the air. Mike Miller made a big play. And, yeah, they came back, took the lead, got a big interception late to hold on. That's a classic game. If you have not watched the 93 Cotton Bowl, Notre Dame and Texas A&M, ladies and gentlemen, go back and watch it on YouTube. That is a classic game, a team that gave Notre Dame everything they could handle. And Lou Holtz and Notre Dame, once again, when all the chips were down, what did they go back to? The trenches, right? The defensive line dominated late in that game, pressuring Corey Pullock, getting him to throw an interception at a key moment, had another turnover, and then the running game just came alive. And eventually they dominated that fourth quarter and went on to win. So that's some of the history and background of the Texas A&M matchup. Left, you know something I thought about? Brent Key, the head coach for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. He said this after the game, and I want to get your thoughts to see if you agree with teams that go on the road in hostile environments. He was asked, Left, what does it mean that his team was able to recover from a tough start and ultimately win the game? His response to the interviewer was, it doesn't matter how you start, it's how you recover, how you settle, and ultimately how you finish. How you recover, how you recover or adjust, then settle in, and ultimately finish. That is what winning teams do better than anybody else. For a team going into a hostile environment on the road, is that something that you would agree with? For Notre Dame taking that type of mindset going into this matchup with Texas A&M? We might have lost Left for a second. What do you guys think? And the reason I bring this up is I think it stood out to me when he said that, because a lot of people say you want to start fast. And I think a lot of Notre Dame fans would love to see the Notre Dame run game in particular get going early, start fast. And when Coach Keith said that, I said, you know what? That makes sense, because when you're playing highly competitive football games, more than likely, you get a lot of surprises at the beginning of the game. Saw a very interesting stat about the Georgia Tech defense. They did a tremendous job. After the first drive, they had 0 quarterback pressures. Florida State was averaging nearly 6 yards per carry. They moved the ball down with ease and made it seem as if they were going to score 30 to 40 points. We knew who the quarterback was, but Florida State's on a roll. From that very moment, Florida State averaged minus 0.8 yards per carry. Georgia Tech had 6 tackles for loss, and they had 2 sacks and I believe 11 pressures for the rest of the game. That's amazing. Let's get into it, because whether we talk about the young linebackers or whether or not we talk about the coaching staff or whether or not we talk about the young offensive line, there are particular rooms and players that will be playing for the first time. And this is something that stood out about Georgia Tech. This is their first time with a lot of new defensive players and a brand new defensive coordinator with a brand new system. This was the first time their defense was going to be tested. And what they got in that first drive was not so much the inability athletically to play with Florida State, nor was it the coaching and being out-coached. They made mistakes. Why? Because what they were doing all summer and what they had been practicing all summer was finally being tested. It was finally being tested. And sometimes young men get in situations for the first time, and ultimately they make fundamental mistakes. Has nothing to do with talent, has nothing to do with their ability to compete, has nothing to do with the coaches not being competent or not being good enough. It's all about them making mistakes. Offensive linemen that are young and inexperienced, more than likely on Saturday, are going to make mistakes. Young, inexperienced linebackers, more than likely, are going to make mistakes. First of all, because they're going to be amped up. Their adrenaline is going to be flowing early on. More than likely, they're going to make mistakes. However, I truly believe that it's going to be the job. And this is what I said this before. I wonder what you guys think about this. If this was Jared Parker in year 2, and I really can't give this as a concrete answer. This is really kind of nuanced, because if Jared Parker had come back in year 2, I think we would have seen more of Jared Parker's personality on the offense. We still would have to question why he calls things, how he sets up plays, and his inability, based upon last season, to set up things for later in the game. We had Ken Gibbs on. He went over the film of the North Carolina State Notre Dame game, and he was frustrated because he said Notre Dame literally ran the same 5 to 7 plays for 4 quarters, and North Carolina State was never able to stop it. Same play, different formations, same play. Kind of sounds like me when it comes to Madden. But Mike Denbrock is going to play a huge role in this game because of that inexperienced offensive line. His experience in coaching to the talent, his experience in keeping, Georgia Tech did an incredible job, of keeping the Florida State defense on their toes and on their heels, shall I say.
They definitely did.
They could never do. They did a great job of spreading them out, getting the ball to their playmakers, and not allowing that big defensive line that averages about 285, 290 to just come after their quarterback, their young quarterback. They gave their talent a chance to do what they do.
Absolutely. You can even tell just how they made all third downs look really easy.
Mm-hmm.
All the third downs was pretty much wide open, and the guy had the ability to make the other guy miss.
Yeah.
So they kept it, game plan very well. And then, the quarterback just made plays that were off schedule, plays that you couldn't practice in a week of practice. He was doing things to help his football team win, and the team responded to it. And Florida State never looked comfortable. Obviously, they're not going to look comfortable with DJ being back there, but they didn't look comfortable defensively because they felt like even if they did good, offensively wouldn't back them up.
And it's crazy because Once again, I want to get your feedback on this. Their coach, Frank Key, after the game said, look, we told them don't worry about the start. He was very aware that his team, the strength of his team was his offensive line, and they were going to have to depend on that offensive line wearing Florida State down and ultimately dominating the game. He said it in the interview, run the damn ball. You want to know what we're about? 4 of our 5 starters coming back, number 1 rushing attack returning from last year, run the damn ball. And that's exactly what they did. No one thought they would be able to run the ball against Florida State. No one thinks Notre Dame can run the ball on this defensive line at Texas A&M. You just talked about how the coaches can put their players in position to be successful against great defensive lines.
That's right.
What is Mike Denbrock? Give us some bullet points of the things that Mike Denbrock can do with two freshmen on the left side of the offensive line to offset a dominant defensive line perception-wise, because we haven't seen them do it this year. Their defensive line coach is now the defensive coordinator up at Syracuse with Fran Brown. So
I think the best thing he can do is just keep switching it up. Have the DNs think on each and every play. If you get them in just positions where they know it's a pass, and they can pin their ears back and get to the quarterback, it's a long day. So you want to stay out of long third down distances. You don't want to be in a bunch of 3rd and 8 and plus, or even 3rd and 7 and plus, because that D-line is qualified enough to get back to the quarterback in certain passing downs. So if Denbrock can keep a 2nd and 5, 3rd and 4 kind of thing going, you're gonna stress the defensive line out, because you're gonna have short distances to where you can run or pass. So they can't just sit there and lock in and attack your quarterback upfield. They got to read for run. They got to read for quick screen. They got to read for the RPOs, the throwouts, stuff that I think that it would be really good for a guy like Riley to come into, because it's not hard. You just got to read one guy, get the ball out fast, get the D-line, taking a lot of reps. And once you can get to the D-line by the 3rd, 4th quarter, you warm down with just quick outs. Then you can start developing a deeper passing game where the play action comes in. So I think Denbrock is going to be able to attack their D-line by switching it up. We're going to be creative. We're going to keep them guessing. And just like Georgia State did, they couldn't quite lock in all the way on them.
Georgia Tech actually plays Georgia State this weekend. Lucky Lefty podcast. That Georgia State game is going to be tricky for Georgia Tech too. Georgia State has a good offense, bro. Georgia Tech better be ready to play. I hope they don't have a hangover from this win against Florida State over in Ireland. So before we move on to Marcus Freeman, as you sit here today, Lev, is there anything that troubles you right now? I want to go beyond concern, because everybody can be concerned about something they haven't seen, right? That's faith, right? That's what triggers faith. Substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen, right? So we have hope, right? We haven't seen these 2 young offensive linemen play, but heck, the hope comes from the fact that Notre Dame produces offensive linemen at a pretty good rate. Normally they're talented. Normally they go on to the NFL. And we've seen history where freshman offensive linemen come in at Notre Dame and actually play well and serve notice that in 2 years, you'll see me walking across the stage, shaking the commissioner's hand. So with that being said, is there anything right now that you can think of that you're like, man, I'm kind of worried about this. I'm kind of worried about this particular aspect of the game as it approaches?
Yeah, I think I would just say the continuity of how the offense can connect with the young offensive line, transfers at all different types of positions, how that chemistry and continuity comes into effect and plays to what we've always talked about, and that's how do you be consistent in order to score 40-plus points. 40-plus points is only done when you're consistently giving efficient drives and you're making it count when it counts. I think it'll be also close to that number because the defense is going to give us a lot of opportunities to get the ball back. So the defense gives us the ball back in short fields. We got to cash in. So our only worry is the communication between Riley going up to the line, making checks, making the right play calls. That takes time. So the first couple games, I hope we can be basic enough so that learning curve can be a little different.
Lucky Lefty Podcast. Let us know in the chat. As you said before, we have shows coming to Patreon, starting with the Players Only post-game show and dropping on this Wednesday over at Patreon/Lucky Lefty Network. It is the Players Only season preview. Lock in with us. I'm thinking about doing a call-in show, a live call-in show. I'm really considering it. I think for the first time I'm being swayed over to doing it. Being swayed. Now I'm gaining trust in the fan base that they'll act right and come up with some good calls and give us some good conversation. I'm thinking about putting that over on Patreon as well and recording it on like a Friday night or maybe like a Thursday night. Left. We'll see. We'll see what goes. Now, let's talk Marcus Freeman, Left. I have about 6 or 7 clips to play. So what we're going to do, Left, is play the clip. Those in the chat, feel free to respond. Give us your ideas of what you think about what Coach Freeman is saying. But Left, I'm going to play these clips, and then you just roll when they're done. We can fly through them. Because Marcus Freeman said a lot of stuff. Of course, we start off with what's on everyone's mind. The young offensive lineman. Depth chart released today. And of course, it really was the worst kept secret over the last 10 days at Notre Dame. Anthony Knapp is your starting left tackle, true freshman, and redshirt freshman Sam Pendleton is your starting left guard. That means you have 2 freshmen on the left side of your offensive line. Total, man, when fall camp started, if you had told me this would be the conclusion and the result of competition, even if you told me, man, Charles Jagusah is going to be injured, there is no way I'll come up with this starting left side, this combination. No way. No, none. This is like, as I said before, your lottery ticket, which was a great lottery ticket, right? For those of you that missed the show we did on Saturday, we asked the question, what is a lottery ticket for Notre Dame this season? Meaning something that will be long odds, something that happens that will be incredibly long odds that if it actually happens, Notre Dame is definitely going to have a great season and more than likely end up in the national championship. And Left, your lottery ticket was this offensive line winning the Joe Moore Award. And we both said if this offensive line with 2 freshmen on the left side ends up winning the Joe Moore Award, they're probably averaging like 40 points a game and pretty much blowing everybody out. If they can do that, that is a heck of a lottery ticket that you would buy, especially if it ended up cashing in. So Marcus Freeman, he talked about those young offensive linemen and how Anthony Knapp ended up starting at left tackle.
You're confident that you have a team that can do that. We've trained that. We've trained really being able to execute your assignment in crazy conditions with crowd noise and trying to do surprise situations in practice. But at the end of the day, they got to do it when it matters, right? And you can do it in practice. That builds confidence within yourself and with your coaching staff. But you got to do it when it matters versus an opponent. And we won't know that answer until we get to Saturday.
The head coach always wants more practice periods, more days to prepare. But when does a head coach know that his team is ready to go play? Is it something you can sense? Is it something you see or hear in the moments leading up to a game?
I think we're always optimistic, right? I've never gone into a game saying we're not ready, but you don't know truly until you face an opponent, and a good opponent at that. But I'm confident that this team is ready and will be ready when we go and face Texas A&M on Saturday.
All right, Left. Coach Freeman. You never know until the ball is kicked off whether or not your team is truly ready. They feel like they have a really good team coming out of fall camp, even with the injury to left tackle. He feels like the youngsters have proven themselves.
Yeah, I mean, he's an opportunity where these guys can go out there and make something of what we always talk about and change your life. Was this the perfect opportunity that they knew from the beginning? No. But when they do come across this opportunity, they can make a lot out of this. And thankfully, with the schedule we're going against, there may be a few growing pains in the beginning, but by the middle and end of the season, mid-October, end of November, they should be right on schedule to where this is only a story for the first game because nobody's seen anything. And so, I don't think that Notre Dame linemen have been known for not stepping up or not raising the level of expectation when they get a chance, because this is no different than what we thought about Blake Fisher and Joe Alt when they first started. Florida State 2 years ago. So it's one of those things where an average team should have issues and concerns and worries. With a Notre Dame team that's been built off of the backs of great O-linemen for so long, you just err on the side of benefit of the doubt, and that we'll be able to get it done. That's what I'm saying. If we're Joe Moore for guys of this level of experience being this young, then there's nothing else that would be a hindrance to us on the football team.
I can agree with that. And I also agree with his assessment of not overstating how impressed and how happy he is with this team. And I said this when we went to the last practice of fall camp that we were allowed access to. I talked about, number one, the difference being the tempo. I think we're going to see that on Saturday. I think we're going to see it benefit Notre Dame. We're not going to see a Notre Dame offense that is constantly being attacked. We're not going to see a Notre Dame offensive line that is constantly under attack with blitzes from everywhere, with no answers in the passing game, no answers from the quarterback position. We finally get to see an offensive line, even if they are thrown crazy exotic blitzes, there are weapons on the outside and a credible offensive coordinator in the booth and a really good quarterback with enough talent who will also, like you said, Lev, be working against the norm. Because no normal quarterback should be able to miss time coming into a new team, a new system, and splitting snaps in fall camp and be ready to roll at 100%, knowing everything. Is Riley Leonard still talented enough to make a difference and make big plays in the game? Absolutely. Absolutely. You saw what Haynes King did and how he was able to use his legs to get out of trouble. Well, expect Riley Leonard to be able to do so and have the opportunity to do so on Saturday night against the Texas A&M Aggies. But like Coach Freeman said, look, we have to kick it off. He feels good about this team. The other thing that was supreme confidence that he had, because he coached very differently. He was very noticeable the first 2 years in fall camp, in my opinion. This year, noticeable because he's the head coach, not as vocal, but you definitely heard the assistants more, being more assertive. I think that was something that was infused into them by Marcus Freeman with the confidence he has in them. Mike Denbrock has no problem. You've played for him, Left. He has no problem other than Harry Heastan being the loudest assistant on the practice field. None at all. I think that bodes well for this team, especially on Saturday night when it comes to, we talked about being able to recover, settle in, and then ultimately finish things off. The Fighting Irish should be able to do just that. He went a little bit deeper in his conversation about the decision to start Anthony Knapp at the left tackle?
Decisions in the moment based off previous experiences, and then that's the beautiful part of practice. Like, there's competition, and I tell those guys every day you should be trying to take somebody's job, right? And every day if you're a starter, you should know guys behind you are trying to take your job. And we've had 10 practices since then that basically kind of got us to this conclusion that Anthony Knapp will be our starting left tackle. But he's worked tirelessly. He's done a really good job of building trust with his coaching staff, and that's why we made that decision.
Well, see, this is why I don't understand. He's fair when it comes to old linemen because the man earned it. It's fair in games when the old line got to earn their stripes.
Left.
I'm just saying. And that's why you shouldn't be surprised when you do see him do well, because he's been through a process. What you supposed to do with your brand new shirts when you buy them from the store? First thing you're supposed to do.
T-shirts.
Put it in the wash. Put it in the wash.
Yes. There's a lot of people out there that don't do that though, Left.
You don't take the shirt from the store and then just throw it on. You don't do that. You take the shirt, you bring it home, you throw it through the wash, throw it through the process, and then you put it on. That's like back in the day. For summer, you go to PacSun, get you a nice little fit, and walk out in the fit to go to the little after party.
Never been to PacSun. What do you know? You know nothing about
PacSun. Yeah, y'all got Hollister. It's Hollister in Chicago as well.
Never been to Hollister. Don't know what you're talking about, bro.
Hollister took over Notre Dame, got the little shirts made.
I went to stores like Macy's, Carson's, The Lark. The Lark was huge. Like, if you watch the Kanye documentary, Kanye always tries to act like he created everything in Chicago. Like, dude, I'm darn near a decade older than you. I was going to the Lark. Your song was about you selling clothes in the Lark in Chicago. Come on, man. Well, go ahead, love. Go ahead. Continue your rant, because you're leading up to. I'm not jumping in the Uber with you this time, because I already know your destination.
No, I'm just saying
you're headed to hate Leonard Road. I already know.
It's not hate Leonard Road.
Just saying, you're headed there a little bit.
I'm just saying the process in which this O-line has been figured out, I'm much more confident in, because the man done been through stuff. You saw go to Steve Angeli's press conference when Sam Hartman came there, where he's so jolly. Oh, I'm scratching his back, washing his feet, getting him coffee every day. He been through the process and what it takes in a year of playing well and not getting respected. Fast forward a year later, he's like, yeah, the room's straight. They good. It's all right. I'm making it work. Yeah, so that's a guy you want. The happy-go-lucky guys have a hard crash for me. You're just too happy. Because that too happy stuff doesn't rub off the right way when y'all lose. Unfortunately. You need somebody with a little bit of grit. Tenacity.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on.
Disrespect.
So his fourth quarter against Notre Dame wasn't gritty?
Whose?
Riley Leonard's.
The guy that got hurt?
The guy that led them from behind and took the lead.
The guy couldn't finish the game against the team he's playing for now.
Because he got hurt on a sack. What are you talking about?
What I'm saying is,
you're all over the place, bro. First of all, hey, I need you. You have a couch nearby. Do you have a couch nearby where you're at? Do you have a couch nearby?
Yes.
I need you to lay back on that couch. Lay back on the couch, bro. Lay back on the couch. Okay?
I'm not saying Riley doesn't have grit. I'm saying Steve has grit. I'm saying Steve has grit. I'm not saying Riley don't have it. I don't know what Riley has. And neither does anybody in this chat know what Riley has until we see him.
MALIK ZAIRE, it is August the 26th, 2024. We are about 6 days out. 6 days out from kickoff. Riley Leonard is the starting quarterback for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. You have fought the good faith. You have fought the good faith for your real day one Notre Dame quarterbacks all summer long. Myself and the rest of ND Nation and LL Nation, we tip our cap to you, Left. You stood strong for you guys. It was admirable, but it's time to let it go. It's time to
I'll
let it go.
go.
It's
I'll
time to let it go. It's time to let it go. It's time to let it go. It's game week, Left. It's time to let it go.
I'm just saying that it's right that this process has gone through with the offensive line that we should be confident in.
Yes.
Because of the process that he's been put
So
through.
basically what you're saying is they did Anthony Knapp right as a true freshman.
We don't know if only Anthony can do right. We know that the way they got to making that decision was a good process.
Okay. So you like that process. You like the process by which they came to announcing Anthony Knapp as the starting left tackle.
Yes.
Okay. I have no problem with it either. Lucky Lefty podcast. The coach then went on to talk about, man, what made you start another freshman right next to the freshman left tackle, Sam Pendleton. I like Sam Pendleton because he got the old school middle bar. He's got that face. Yeah, he has that face mask left. I like it.
Yeah.
I like that. Sounds like he's going to come off the ball real nasty. I like that at left guard. Marcus Freeman said this is why he's starting at left guard.
Say the same thing with Knapp, right? Is just it's consistency in doing the job you're expected to do over and over and over, and that's why you make decisions, right? It's not a one-day thing, and it's not a last year thing. It's okay. Who do we believe has consistently shown in practice to get the job done over and over and over, and that's why we made those decisions. You know, we have a lot of confidence in the two deep of our offensive line, right? There's guys with experience that are in the two deep, but at the end of the day, you have to make a decision on who you want that first group to be, and Anthony and Sam are two guys we felt would give us the best chance to have success.
There you go, Left. Once again, process. You like the process for Sam Pendleton too?
Yeah, I mean, anything with the O-lineman that you can trust more times than not that they're going to have the right things needed to get the job done, because we're not asking them to be Ronnie Stanley and Mike McGlinchey and block and pass protect for 30 passes in a game. We're going to run the ball. So it's easier to start freshmen when you're going to run the football primarily, and then they'll gain experience as they take reps with pass blocking over games. So I really do think that it's just going to be some growing pains. I think all included is going to have some growing pains. But the fact that the offensive line can run the football, those two guys are run blocking first, I do think it's a lot easier to feel comfortable that starting two freshmen, you're going to run the football. I think Denbrock is definitely not shy of doing that. And once we establish the run, those guys get comfortable in their first game. They get contact. They get a couple pancakes, whatever. Now you can open up the pass, do some quick games, some RPOs, start working play action down the field. Now you're getting some run, play action blocking. So there's many ways to complement two young guys when you have a great offensive coordinator, and we got one in Denbrock.
See, when the first time you stepped on the field as a starter, Left, you had your big brothers behind you. So you could walk out on that field and talk that talk. You know how it is when the little brother always runs around the neighborhood starting picking fights because he knows he has his big brothers that everybody knows. That was you starting at quarterback with that offensive line in front of you. That was you against Texas. You showed out. I give it to you. You showed out. You backed it up. But Riley Leonard now steps into a situation where he might have to do a little bit of encouraging in the huddle early in the game. You know, how do you think the respect that he's garnered, as quick as he garnered, as you pointed out, which impressed you, How do you think that's going to eventually help this offense early on to be able to settle in and eventually put points on the board and finish the game out?
Well, there's a certain confidence factor for him to be able to get a letter C in his first year. Like, I think that's pretty impressive for him to be able to do. But at the end of the day, you're not really going to be tested until things don't go well. So we'll see if he's able to calm the tides of anxiety and worry when things don't go right. But outside of that, I mean, he hasn't been in a situation where he's needed to lead in a way like that. And so starting, going in the away game, big environment, is a good opportunity to put the rubber to the road.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because I think his leadership is something, because people are focused on his passing ability and the efficiency that you pointed out, and the numbers back it up. He needs to be more efficient in the passing game, especially against good defenses. That's what has been shown over his career, which has been a short career because it was basically 1.5 seasons. The second season ended due to injury. Fully understand that. And being fair, you come to understand that his legs will be important on Saturday night. Extending plays, escaping sacks, his legs would definitely be very important. So we'll see, Left. We'll see. We'll see. You can't argue that, right? He played Clemson, which is a top defense, even though they were rated that way. Once again, Clemson, that first game they played was similar to Florida State. Everybody was talking about how great their defense was going to be, and it ended up not really living up to the lofty expectations, even though they were a good defense. Eventually, by the end of the season, he still threw for barely 52% in that game, passing the ball, and only 175 yards. You go to the Notre Dame game. We don't even want to talk about his completion percentage against Notre Dame. And he got back into the game and got Duke back into the game with his legs. So it is fair for everyone, regardless of whether or not you are pessimistic or whether or not you are on the side of Riley Leonard, feeling like he has shown enough, or in the middle of wait and see. The facts remain that in big games against good defenses, he has yet to show that he can be the efficient passing quarterback that you need to win big-time games. The proof just isn't there. Everybody on both sides or in the middle can say, oh, we think this or we think that. He hasn't shown it. He hasn't shown it. And that's what we want to see as Notre Dame fans on Saturday night. I can't wait to see it. Show me. Please show me. Like Chris Mitchell saying, like, y'all disrespecting me saying I run a 4.4. Okay, my bad. Show me. Show me the 4.3. Shut me up. By all means, do it.
But that's what it is because now it's just different. Your expectations are different. You're a captain at Notre Dame. You're not a quarterback at Duke anymore. So the pressure of being in this environment, expecting to win at a high level, everything's on the line. What does that do to a kid who hasn't been asked to do that in 4 years on this level? So things that are intangibles that you can't quite put a thumb on, but have influence and effect on a person that in the game, they're all in question. I think his ability is good enough to, like I said, it doesn't, to me, we said this in the very beginning of the spring. It don't matter who the quarterback is. It don't matter. I just hope that with Riley, we can win in dominant fashion to get us in a playoff position where we can really show our worth.
That is Marcus Freeman talking about why he thinks his team is ready, and then also talking about why the two freshmen did what they needed to do through competition in spring and fall, landing as the starting left tackles and left guards going into game 1, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. ABC, Texas A&M Aggies, Notre Dame Fighting Irish. It's almost here, ladies and gentlemen. It's almost here. Lucky Lefty Podcast. All right, Left. Coach Freeman also went into his wide receivers and why he thinks his wide receivers are going to be able to make plays on Saturday night. This is what he had to say.
6 guys, man, have played, with the ones in fall camp, and that's why we decided to have oars. Like those 6 guys, I don't care who goes out with the first group. They're all 6 guys are going to play, and all 6 guys have the ability to make plays down the field, to do exactly what we asked them to do in our run-in passing game, and we have a lot of confidence in all 6 of them.
So Marcus Freeman pretty much setting it out that 6 are going to play on Saturday. Who that 6 will be, we'll get to that when we talk about the depth chart coming up. Will a freshman be in that top 6? Will a redshirt freshman be in that top 6? We'll talk about it coming up soon on the show. But Left, someone in the chat made a good point, and they said more than likely Texas A&M is going to make Notre Dame prove it. We see the addition. We see the new quarterback. We see the transfers in the wide receiver room. It's all sounding good and looking good, but you're going to have to make us prove it. You don't have to make us prove it. We're coming forward. We're being the aggressor in this fight. Back us up. Please back us up. I think Notre Dame is probably going to get a challenge like that from Mike Elko and this Aggie defense on Saturday night. Notre Dame's going to have to throw a lot of counter punches early, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think we can't come out with the small ball mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we're just gonna work them down and wear them down. No, I think we should try to be explosive, try to score early, get on them fast, because I do think that we're playing in a hostile environment. It's not an easy place to play, so playing from a lead is much more interesting and much easier to manage, because you take the crowd out of it. If we're in struggle ball the whole game, anybody's liable to lose. That's just not the situation we want to put ourselves in, taking it down to the last 2 minutes.
You know what, Left? One of the things that I pointed out, I saw a lot of, in 2 practices that we watched, I saw a lot of screen passes being thrown, different types of screens, but I also saw wide receivers running a lot of quick slants, focusing on run after the catch. How does that play into what we talked about? Mike Elko and this Texas A&M team forcing Notre Dame to prove that they can beat them passing the ball, making Leonard beat them through the air. Now I talk about those specific things right there. They're stacking the box. You have 7, 8 in the box, which means Notre Dame should have the advantage on the outside. Will that screen game and will the short passing game come into play if the aggression is on the side of Mike Elko and the Aggies early in the game?
I think we'll be able to adjust to whatever they give us. I do think if they are pressuring us and loading the box like they have been the last 10 years, I think that if that's the case, we have to be able to hit on some shots outside the hashes, outside the numbers. So I don't think we're going to totally revamp and make them change what they're doing. We're going to do what we do best, and then we're going to hopefully have those one-on-ones outside that we have to take advantage of. This is why we brought Riley. He's got to take advantage of them blatantly giving us man on the outside on 3rd down.
Yeah. I'm sorry, man. I love Jamie Flowers, dude. You keep arguing, but you keep proving our point, whether it's during the show or after the show. We're not talking about his legs. Stop bringing his legs up. He's not beating top teams in the playoffs with his legs.
He's not.
He's not. It's not happening.
Not happening.
It's not happening. We all are in the same position as Notre Dame fans. We want a quarterback that can prove they can lead us to the national championship, and they have to prove that they can do it with the arm.
That's it.
Everybody wants the same thing. So why are we debating honest, factual critique of the quarterback that we have? We love his talent. We know what he can do with his legs. He has to show us that he can do it with his arm in big moments. We have to see it efficiently, effectively, and consistently. We haven't seen it. That's it. That's all we're asking. That's not too much to ask from anybody, whether you're a pro Riley Leonard, whether or not you're sitting in the middle saying, I need to see it, or whether or not you're to the other side, as some people are in the fan base and said, no, I don't think he can do it. We all want the same thing at the end of the day. We want Riley Leonard to show us that he's the guy to do it and lead us to a national championship. So we all want the same thing. We all want the same thing. So, Left, Marcus Freeman also talked about, listen to this, and shout out to my guy, Shaun Stiers over at IB. Shaun Stiers, he does a show each and every day, 5 p.m. Eastern time over at Irish Breakdown. And let me tell you, he came up with a fabulous question from Marcus Freeman. And Marcus Freeman ended up talking about just the depth, being ready, effectiveness of the squad. Listen to this, man. The questions he answered, the 2 questions he answered from Shaun Stiers, who, in my opinion, had the 2 best questions of the day.
The openers, no matter if the coach is returning or not, coordinators are returning or not, like, you don't truly know what to expect. You have an idea of what to prepare for, but openers are huge in terms of adjustments, and we have to be able to adjust on the sideline to what we're seeing on both sides of the ball, special teams. And so that's something that we've talked about in depth as a coaching staff, is that this game is going to be about adjustments and how do we settle down based off what we're seeing from our opponent to say, okay, here's the things we want to do on each side of the ball. And we understand that it's been like that for the first couple of years, right, as a head coach, that you have to be able to make adjustments, especially that first game.
It's also the 3rd straight year you've opened away from home. Is there any, I guess, over the course of the season, is there any kind of value that comes with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, through fall camp, you continue to preach that at the end of the day, it's still 120 by 53 in the 3rd, right? And that's the things that matter. Like, you prepare them for the elements, the things that are outside of the football field, but at the end of the day, it's about the execution between the 120 and 53 and 3rd lines. And so, I think our guys are excited. Sometimes it's good to go on the road. We love playing at home, but obviously sometimes it's good to go on the road, us against everybody, and it's going to be exciting. We're looking forward to it.
Go ahead, Left.
Well, I mean, yeah, it is exciting. I mean, it's an opportunity to prove early that you can be an away team, and I do think that Marcus Freeman's headspace is a lot better place. I think he feels like he can actually go out there and do a little coaching and management, and the fruits of his labors will be able to take care of things where he's lacked in and not had the attention and focus on before.
Yeah, I think Coach is definitely locked in. He has a different level of confidence. And what Shaun Stiers asked him, especially with that second part, I think, you go through this, you build a program, you get to a 3rd year, you think you found the road, found the way, and then you find out it's blocked by something, right? In recruiting, you think you got a kid, you think you're trending towards the top 5 class, and then you lose 2 of your top 5 kids, right? You thought that was going to be the class to really turn things around. And then you have to adjust, right? You find out early that the quarterback room is not what you think it is. And then you have to adjust on the fly with that. Marcus Freeman this entire way has not only looked to find the answers, but he's been very truthful with himself. He's been very truthful with Notre Dame, in my opinion, and he's asked them to supply what he needs to help him take this program to the next level. He has increased the talent. He has added depth in every area of this program, in every area of this roster. And now, the third year left, what we've been saying since the end of last year, the end of the Sun Bowl, during the post-game show. We were like, okay, it's put up or shut up time now. It's just,
really is. It really is.
That's what it is. It's year 3. It's put up, shut up time. We can sit here and talk about what we've seen in spring camp, what we saw in the blue and gold game, what we saw that's promising in the fall camp. Riley Leonard, new receivers, the youngsters coming along, winning competitions. At the end of the day, friend or foe, state your biz. That's what time it is.
Yeah.
What's it going to be this year? And we're all along for the ride.
We are, and I think it's all the ducks are in the line, and it's just an opportunity for us to go out there and do our thing, man.
I think we have one more clip to hear from Marcus Freeman talking about the team before we get to Mike Elko. Oh, yes, here it is. He talked about, how he came about the confidence because of the depth on this roster. Check it out.
I think the depth, right? We've continued to improve the depth of all positions, and it's not very often you can replace Joe Alt at left tackle and then you lose the starting left tackle and still feel very confident about the left tackle that's going into the game, and we do. And so I think our coaching staff has done a great job, our recruiting staff, at developing depth at all positions. Each year it's different. It's different. Like that's the great challenge of a coach is that you don't start over. You don't just reload it. It's you have to start over with this new group of talent, right, and build it the right way, and have a process that you believe is going to have an output that you want on these 12 guaranteed opportunities. So I'm really pleased with the depth of this football team and how our coaches and staff has recruited. Yeah.
And that's with the disappointment of the young men that they lost in recruitment. You talk about an Elijah Page starting left tackle who was committed, left. You talk about the big boy Keon Keeley, committed, left. You talk about Bowen out there at Oklahoma, committed, left. He still improved the roster and the talent and depth on this roster. It could be even better. But of course, that is the challenge of recruiting at Notre Dame, especially when you go after 5-star talent. As fickle as it is and the way the market and how volatile it is right now left, Marcus Freeman has the questions, finds the answer, and is always looking to get better. And that's what you have to love about him. Now, we see you doing all of that. Now you have to prove that you can transition that success to the field and get into these playoffs and make a run.
Yeah, and that's what everybody's waiting for. Can you put it all together now? We done seen you and gave you the easy outs. It wasn't your team. It's not your class. Now all of that's out the window. It's time to put up or shut up. And I think he knows what time it is, but also he's excited about what's on the horizon too.
We have a great comment here on the way out. It just points out something that is amazing about this offseason. Matt Boer. I hope I pronounced your name right. If I didn't, Matt, I apologize. Thanks for tapping in and watching. He said the tight ends are getting overlooked. Evans is a beast, but so are Eli and Cooper. We haven't heard a peep about the tight ends. How amazing is that? The Notre Dame passing game being discussed, and nobody's talking about the tight ends. No one. That could be huge. The tight ends could be huge, especially with pressure hitting Texas A&M deep down the middle of that field and in the seams on Saturday night.
Yeah, I mean, it's It's a little different not hearing about them, but it's good that we haven't either, I guess, right?
Yeah, and we didn't fail to mention Kevin Bauman. And man, let me tell you something. Jack Larson is another kid that was mentioned by Mike Denbrock as emerging by the end of fall camp. That
Well,
tight end
that's the
position.
greatest name on the team.
Yeah, that tight end position by the end of the season could literally be 5 deep. 5 players could be playing. So, but no one worries about if it ended up being freshmen playing tight end like Michael Mayer. People wouldn't worry. Offensive line is a little bit different. I know that. That's fair. But it's amazing, man. Notre Dame. Can't wait to see the boys, man. It's a lot of weapons out there. I don't know if Texas A&M has enough to cover it, but we'll see. Lucky Lefty podcast. When we come back, Texas A&M head coach. Was he showing some shade? We knew he showed love. We said he showed love in the teaser at the beginning of the show. But we're going to play something for you to decide whether or not he threw a little shade. Not at this year's team, but at the program at large. Lucky Lefty podcast. We'll be right back.
What's up, family? The merch shop is finally here. Lucky Lefty Network merch shop. We got it all. From the shirts to the hoodies to the hats to the nitty gritties. Come here right now. Shop with us. Come get the swag because you know, if anything else, we spin it different. You see the gritty. You see how we get down. It's elite.
It's only up from here. Let's get busy.
ONORA boys in the building. Lucky Lefty podcast brought to you by ONORA Whiskey, ONORAWhiskey.com. It's that premium American whiskey, ONORAWhiskey.com. And if you drink, by all means, make sure you do so
responsibly.
You got to do it responsibly. Audio edibles each and every day. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Patreon.com/Lucky Lefty Network. Don't forget, coming soon to Patreon, dropping Wednesday. Players only, the only Notre Dame players only podcast that's out there throughout the season. All of their post-game comments, you'll see it right there over at Patreon.com/Lucky Lefty Network with a new sale coming and dropping on Wednesday with that season preview. Instagram, X at Lucky Lefty Pod, and then go to YouTube, subscribe, share, hit that thumbs up. It helps with the views. Leave your comments, leave your questions. We respond to all. Committed to being the home of the misguided passion. It's the Lucky Lefty podcast. You already know. We spin it
different.
And you can go to our YouTube page, any video, and you can see our merchandise featured on every video. Go to the merchandise store right now. Man, that new product. So this is the funny thing, right? So we designed the screen popper shirt, the big time screen popper shirt. And ladies and gentlemen, this was the funniest thing in the world. So we designed the one with our cover athlete, which is our own MALIK ZAIRE, Lucky Lefty himself, as the original and first screen popper. We posted and we looked up 2 days later and it was taken down from the store. So we inquire like, whoa, what's going on? Why did you take this product down? And we get a nice form letter back from the manufacturer saying, according to the bylaws of such and so, it is not within your rights to use the name, image, and likeness of this athlete. So, Left, you know what my response was?
What was your response, bro?
Yo, he's the co-owner. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'm like, he's literally the co-owner. What are you talking about? He's co-owner, co-president. It was the funniest thing in the world.
Because usually the players don't own nothing.
Right.
So they're not used to that. They probably was like, wait a minute, okay, it might go through.
So I literally had to call Left like, hey man, I'm gonna need you to write a letter and sign it, man, giving us permission to use your name, image, and likeness for the Screen Popper shirt. Left was like, what?
Yeah, I didn't even know. Man, I had no clue I was still under those guidelines.
You were grandfathered in. I guess it was certain years. I think it starts now at 2014. I think 2014 was grandfathered in. So if you played from 2014 forward, yeah, NIL applies to you. You better do some Google searches, bro, to make sure T-shirts aren't out there with your face on it.
You know, everybody finds ways to try to make it happen. You know, I can't be mad at them.
Hey, don't tax the company too hard on your NIL charges, bro.
No, not at all. That's crazy. Yeah, the players got a lot of rights nowadays. You gotta be careful.
Man, they really do. They really do. I mean, I didn't mind. Yo, I was like, I'm cool. I can get that in a heartbeat. You need a letter? Cool. No problem.
Whatever. Yeah, whatever. We get it done.
We get it done. No problem. But
y'all springing on us like that a little crazy.
Right. Because I was confused. I was like, oh, they made a mistake, so I put it back up. And then it came right down. It came down immediately. That time, I was like, wait a minute. What the heck is going on? And that's when I contacted them. And they let me know, no, sir. NIL, baby. You don't have permission. I'm like, but I do.
I definitely do.
Lucky Lefty Podcast. Mike Elko met with the assembled media down in College Station today. And this is how he opened his press conference, Left.
Thank you guys for coming out. It's finally here. You know, it's what I told the guys this morning. You spent an awful lot of time to get ready for game week, and now game week is finally upon us. And so we're excited. We're excited for this week. We're excited for this opportunity. I think we've had a really, really good fall camp. Happy with the progress that we've made across the board. Happy with where our team is from a health standpoint going into this week to get ready for this opener. I think we've gotten a lot done in terms of becoming more physical, getting better, improving, but also, you know, getting our guys to this week healthy and ready to roll. And so excited with how that all worked out. I think from our standpoint, our focus is real simple. You know, we want to be able to go out and play our best football Saturday night. And, you know, what we talked to our guys about, I think this is really important when you're playing a game like this, the focus has to be on all the little details from today through Saturday that give us the opportunity to go out Saturday night and perform like we want to. And the challenge I laid on them was go out there every day and outwork Notre Dame. You know, someone on Monday is going to prepare better than the other team. Someone on Tuesday is going to prepare better. Someone's going to hydrate better. Someone's going to eat better. All those little things you can do to give yourself an advantage to go out Saturday night and be successful, we have to do, because you can't over prepare. Right? That's not something that exists. You can't be too ready for the opener.
All right, Mick, cut man in the corner. I hear you. Trying to get your squad ready. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if they're waking up every day saying beat Notre Dame, that means that we're on their mind more than what our direction where we want to go.
It sounds like the same Pep's speech he gave Duke last year.
Yeah.
You gotta outwork Notre Dame.
And I mean, he's made it far doing that. So
that doesn't sound like a team that thinks they're better than Notre Dame.
No. We're gonna David and Goliath this. They see them as the lesser of the two. So this is a underdog. They coming into our house. They think they running stuff. You know how it goes. But it goes back to why this season is about us. We're not thinking about what Texas A&M is worried about, because we know we're a better program at this point.
Yeah. It should be interesting, Left. He talked about our wide receivers, Left, and the addition and the rundown and whether or not he's worried about them. This is what Mike Elko said about our wide receivers.
They've kind of revamped the wide receiver room a little bit with some guys that have really stepped up in their program with some additions of transfers. And so I think one of the unique things as you're watching film on openers, you're watching film from about 8 different colleges as you get ready for this offense. You got Duke film on there, you got FIU film on there, you got Clemson film on there, you got Notre Dame film, you got LSU film. It's one of the unique things about going through these openers. And then at tight end, Mitchell Evans is a kid that I have a lot of respect for. He really had a huge game in Durham last year against us at Duke, and really a dual threat kid, can hurt you in the run game, but can really get open and separate in the pass game. And their offensive line has been kind of the blood of their program forever, the lifeline of their program forever. And so we certainly expect them to come out and be really competitive on that area of the field as well.
What you think, Lef?
He didn't mention the pass not one time. He mentioned the things that we talked about. The offensive line is concrete. That's going to be there. We solid there. But the issue comes in when he's not even worried about the pass. He didn't even mention the quarterback. Oh, he did. He said he did good things, but we know that they're thinking run first and everything else will take care of itself.
Yeah.
And the first game is working towards changing that perspective, because we can and we have the athletes to do it. We just got to call the game as if we have those athletes to do it.
Yeah, I guess that's the way you could look at it. But I think I'm not shocked, right? And we said it earlier. I'm not shocked that the approach is going to be the bloodline is their run game and their offensive line. That's the way it's always been. We know the additions at the wide receiver position, but it still comes back to that's what they want to do. But Marcus Freeman from the jump said this is going to be a driven program in the trenches. Offensive and defensive line are going to lead the way when we become who we think we're going to become. And even with the 2 freshmen on the left side, that seems to be the mantra coming from the direction of the Notre Dame staff. And Mike Elko seems to be drinking that same juice coming into this game, thinking, yeah, we're getting ready for a team that's going to try and run the ball down our throat, be physical,
Yeah.
and throw the ball to the tight end. He directly mentioned Mitchell Evans. Like, yo, we're looking for Mitchell Evans to be an issue in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to Mitchell Evans being a threat. But he hasn't talked about the Chris Mitchells. He hasn't talked about the guys that we brought to change that aspect and grow that aspect of our game. Maybe he's thinking he doesn't know what we're going to see from it, so he's not going to be concerned about it until he has to adjust. But Notre Dame has a lot of proven this year, early on in the year, that we are a team that can take it to the next step and throw the football.
Do you think when he mentioned early in that clip that in preparation for this offense, there's a lot to watch, right? He's watching Chris Mitchell film from Florida International. He's watching Bo Collins film from Clemson. He's watching Notre Dame film with Greathouse and Faison. And then he's watching Duke film with Riley Leonard. And LSU film with Mike Denbrock. Is that too much? Like he said, you can never be too prepared, but is that too much information? Like at some point, you have to know who you are and do what you do.
Yeah, I mean, you want to take as much context clues from as much information that you can get, because it is like a puzzle throughout the game. You got to find, because what makes football cool, you hear about these stories all the time, is that these guys that study nothing but tape find one play, like a needle in a haystack. And that one play, particular look or whatever, is the one play that comes up in the game that they recognize, and they make the play and they stop it or whatever, and it changes the game. So, yeah, I'm sure through all that film that he's watching, there's something that Denbrock's going to pull out of his butt from an LSU, from a former Notre Dame game, from, a Duke thing that Riley does well. So something's going to come across with that, because like he said, we don't have film on this offense as a unit. We have film on these offense as individuals. So they try to break it down as many ways as you can, and that's the proper step if you want to get ready.
Yeah. Christopher Galloway in the chat, thank you for tapping in. Yes, I do believe that Mike Elko is speaking above coach talk or coach speak. I do believe that he thinks Notre Dame is going to come in and establish the run, and they want to come in and establish the run. You know why? They just named 2 freshmen that are better run blockers than the 2-3 guys they beat out. And that's mainly one of the reasons why they won the job, because they're more powerful in the run game. Yes. And Notre Dame's offensive coordinator and head coach have consistently said the entire fall camp, we're going to run the ball and make explosive plays. We're going to run the ball and then make explosive plays. And their most talented, in my opinion, group offensively are the running backs. So yes, I fully expect that Mike Elko knows that Notre Dame wants to come in and establish the run instead of dropping back 40 times with a left tackle that's a true freshman. Yes, that would be very wise of Mike Denbrock to do, to run the ball and not expose his true freshman in his first game in a hostile environment on the road. That would be very wise. And I think Mike Elko is smart enough to understand that that is what Mike Denbrock would want to do, not expose his young left side by throwing the ball over and over again.
Yeah, you just don't want to live that way.
No, you would be foolish to do that to them in this first game. You would be foolish. You would be putting them in a disadvantageous, it definitely wouldn't be an advantageous situation. You would be putting them at a disadvantage. You definitely would be putting them at a disadvantage. Lucky Lefty podcast. He also talked about facing Riley Leonard and another player that was just on his squad last year. Check this out, Lefty.
I would argue that he has more of an upper hand than we do, because he's probably a little bit more familiar with this defense than most quarterbacks we play. And not that it's the exact defense we ran at Duke. It's obviously blended together with what we've done and with what Coach Bateman brings to the table. But I think we don't have a ton of comfort as a program going against this offense. We haven't defended it for a single snap. I think 2 years going against some version of this defense that's similar to what he'll see Saturday night probably gives him a little bit more of an advantage than it does us.
So Riley Leonard has more of an advantage knowing the signals, the calls, the defense that he practiced against for 2 years. And Mike Elko said, I haven't seen a snap of this offense at Notre Dame because it's not the same offense that I coached against last year. Is that a fair assessment by Mike Elko?
Yeah, that's why he's watching 8 different films, because he's looking for some context clues on what Denbrock's doing, as opposed to not only what Denbrock's doing, but how they're going to use what he's got and adjust to what Notre Dame is at this point. Like you said, with the young left side, you're going to try to protect that. But also, he's got some stuff from LSU that he's brought over. Also, he's got some things Riley Leonard has seen against the defense. Also, they got to think about what Riley Leonard knows. So there's so many different ways to be psychotic about trying to figure out what are the things that are going to make this game and change the momentum in this game. Because if it's just a straight up check the roster, see what they got, we run our stuff, y'all run y'all stuff, I don't think Mike Elko is going to be very successful in that, and he knows that. So he's going to study any tape he can to try to get a context clue on what Notre Dame should be like. Conversely, Riley knows a lot about their defense, but I'm sure they know a lot about Riley.
Facts.
So they're going to show some things that he probably didn't do well in practice with, and, some things that Riley as a player hasn't gotten better at yet. I'm sure they'll have more insight than what our offense knows what he's good at, because we don't even know. Just like Elko doesn't know, we don't know either. And so the culmination of all of that, we'll see on Saturday. It's exciting, many storylines, and there's many different paths that you can look at it and be like, there's some advantages, some disadvantages.
Yeah, that's a good point. He also talked about so Mike Elko. Now this was for me. This was fly. This was really fly because the Texas A&M people, SEC, they don't have a ton of respect for Notre Dame. They have their preconceived notions, so they kept peppering him with questions about the offensive line. And Mike Elko's like, "Hey man, look, guess what? This is what I think about the two freshmen playing for Notre Dame."
Yeah, I think about it probably a little different than you guys from this perspective. I just think Notre Dame has recruited offensive line really, really well for a really long time. And if they have young kids that have entered into the starting lineup, it probably means they're NFL draft picks. And so when you say, he's a freshman starting on the offensive line at Notre Dame, my gut would be, if you went back and researched that would end with he got drafted in the first round significantly more often than not. And so, I think the 6 starts, maybe is a concern for them to some degree just in the opener. But I'm sure these young kids that they're putting out there for the first time are extremely talented, and that's why they've won the starting jobs that they've won. And so that's certainly how we're preparing. We're preparing for a typical Notre Dame offensive lineman that's going to be really big and really talented and try to control the line of scrimmage. I think they've been a finalist for the Joe Moore Award more than they haven't in the last 8 years. And so, I would just imagine they've got some really talented young kids playing.
Hey, man, look.
Mike Elko's no fool.
He ain't no fool.
He ain't no fool. We know exactly what we just naturally put out on the field. That's just what we've been doing for so long, no matter what coach has been there. He said like he said, it's more likely a Notre Dame lineman that's a freshman. Into his story at Notre Dame is him drafted in the first round. More than likely, more times than not, the man getting drafted. So the guys that we're recruiting that are coming in are not no average offensive line guys. These are guys that are damn near, we just need to put the icing on the cake for with the maturation and technique process of the 2 or 3, 4 years that they're there. Yeah. But he's absolutely right. We're going to run the football. We're going to be big up front. Can you take away that first? Can you limit us in that? Teams that have taken that away from us or made it tough and has put it in the quarterback's hands, they've had success.
Yeah.
Shit, look at Marshall. Marshall made us throw the football, and they cashed in with pick sixes and picks and all that stuff. Cincinnati made us throw the football, and we looked terrible and lost to Cincinnati. So if you can do a decent job at stopping the run, it's been tough sledding for us in the long run.
He also talked about, hey, all of this attention about Riley Leonard. It's another former player of mine. You guys might want to watch him on Saturday night.
On the edge, who people haven't talked about as much, R.J. Oben is also a kid who started for me 2 years at Duke, really electric pass rusher and brings a lot of value in that area. They've kind of revamped the linebacker group, but Jack Kaiser will kind of anchor that. And Jack's been around for a long time, played a lot of football. We kind of recruited him for a little bit when I was here as a defensive coordinator, and so have been familiar with him for a long time. He's a great player, and then I think they're really elite in the secondary. I think Benjamin Morrison's one of the best corners in the country. And then I think Xavier Watts was an All-American last year and is really a ball hawk and can go out and find the ball. And so it's a big challenge. It's a challenge that we'll be ready for and we'll be excited for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
R.J. Oben, I got him tallied for 2 sacks on Saturday, left.
2 sacks?
2 sacks from R.J. Oben. 2.
2 sacks, okay.
2 sacks. I got him, yeah. I'm setting it up right now. I haven't predicted the game yet, the score. I'll get to that later in the week, but I definitely have 2 sacks written down. R.J. Oben.
Okay. I can go with that. I can go with that.
Book it. So this is where we get to have fun, Notre Dame fans. Those of you watching in the chat, let me know. It's a simple question, Left. Shade or no shade? Shade or no shade? Let me set this up. Olin Buchanan, beat reporter for the Texas A&M Aggies, longtime beat reporter, asked Mike Elko a question about his time at Notre Dame and what are his thoughts about Notre Dame when it comes to them always being the big game for teams that they play. Mike Elko took a funny route in this question. Let me know whether or not you feel like it's shade or no shade. Here's Mike Elko answering longtime beat reporter Olin Buchanan.
Your season at Notre Dame, did you ever get the sense that when you were playing a team that it meant, to borrow the SEC phrase, it meant more, to that team when they were playing Notre Dame that it was like their biggest game, or is that mystique thing maybe a little overbilled?
Well, man, that's a loaded question, OB, because I don't know that I can answer that one right. I have a lot of respect for the brand that Notre Dame is. I think it's an iconic brand. I think it's recognizable across the country for sure. I don't know that for us this is necessarily tremendous excitement because it's Notre Dame. I think it's tremendous excitement because we're playing a national brand who's ranked 7th in the country in our home opener with a lot of eyes on the game. And so I think from that perspective, that's kind of how I think it's viewed.
Go ahead, Left. I'm gonna save my comments for last. Go ahead, Left. Go ahead. Go ahead, Left.
I mean,
Go ahead, Left. Go.
I don't know, man. Maybe we should just play it back one more time.
You want it one more time, Left?
Maybe my first thoughts isn't the right thoughts.
I got that. Measure twice, cut once, right? That's what the old people say.
I think that's what it's got to be because it's
measure twice, cut once. Here's Mike Elko again.
Your season at Notre Dame, did you ever get the sense that when you were playing a team that it meant, to borrow the SEC phrase, it meant more, to that team when they were playing Notre Dame that it was like their biggest game, or is that mystique thing maybe a little overbilled?
Well, man, that's a loaded question, OB, because I don't know that I can answer that one right. I have a lot of respect for the brand that Notre Dame is. I think it's an iconic brand. I think it's recognizable across the country for sure. I don't know that for us this is necessarily tremendous excitement because it's Notre Dame. I think it's tremendous excitement because we're playing a national brand who's ranked 7th in the country in our home opener with a lot of eyes on the game. And so I think from that perspective, that's kind of how I think it's viewed.
All right, go ahead, Left.
Well, I think he's trying to downplay it a little bit because if he spoke on the actual weight of what Notre Dame brings in a game week and even to an away game where you're seeing half the stadium in green and blue, where you're seeing a heavy Notre Dame influence that you probably didn't even know was there on your own campus, in your neighborhood, in the city you live in. You're going to start to see a bunch of green and gold pop out everywhere and be like, this is making me uncomfortable. Y'all everywhere. So, yes, we are an international brand. Yes, it can be intimidating to people when you turn your shoulder and there's Notre Dame everywhere you look. It may not be big, but we're there. And he knows that. So he can't delve into just how special it is because it wouldn't set the team in the right state of mind. Because they'll start to realize we're just small fish in this big college football pond. Notre Dame's the shark. And they coming in here and they've been everywhere. This ain't like it's just an out of ordinary, away game for them. They play NFL stadiums for their different color jersey games. They've been there, done that. So to downplay it and be like, oh well, you know, they're big and important, but they're just another team in here. It's a little disingenuous, only because he's been and seen it and felt it and knows what it can be. So, I'm glad that he acknowledges it, but it is kind of funny to see him downplay it at the same time.
Okay, first of all, I see people saying what they want to say in the chat, giving opinions. I'm not here to debate shade, no shade. I just threw it out there, right? I'm gonna start with the back half of his comment. First of all, you're lying. You're capping.
He's definitely capping.
You're lying and you're capping. It is a big game because it's Notre Dame. If they were ranked 15th, it would be a big game. If they were ranked 25th, it would be a big game. Stop lying. It's not a big game because it's Notre Dame. It's a big game because they're ranked number 7. Stop lying. You beat Clemson, a top 5 team at home, and Notre Dame came in a week after losing, and the game was bigger than the Clemson game in the history of Duke football. What are you talking about? You broke attendance records after you just played and beat Clemson at home. You broke that attendance record that you set on that night when Notre Dame came after a loss. Yes, you're capping. He's capping. I'm sorry. And I like Mike Elko. That was cap. I'm not about to debate the first half. It was a loaded question. Absolutely loaded question. And somebody said in the chat, he can't glaze Notre Dame because then the Texas A&M people will be upset. Then the SEC people will be upset, right? He can't say anything else because he doesn't want to get Notre Dame bulletin board material. All of that is true. Forget the first half. The second half is cap. Big cap. From the point you said Notre Dame is a big-time brand nationally, cap. It's a big-time brand globally. You started capping from that point. All of that, after that, cap. It's not a big game because they're Notre Dame. It's a big game because they're number 7. Man, stop. Mike, stop. Stop. You don't have to make your boys feel better about it. Tell them the truth. Hey, this is Notre Dame. You know, all the coaches, this is just another game. Yeah, that's the spiel he wants to give publicly. It's just another game. But in that locker room before they walk out, he's going to let them know by no uncertain terms. He said it in his own press conference when he was asked, how do you keep your players locked in the offseason? He flat out said, playing a team with this type of brand, you don't have to say much to keep them locked in. You can't say that earlier in the press conference and give the brand and the team credit for keeping your players locked in through spring and fall camp and then turn around and say, oh, it's not a big game because it's Notre Dame. You just already copped to that 10 minutes prior. You already copped to it in your press conference. But now, because you don't want to look like you're glazing, I guess.
The glazing thing is crazy to me.
Yeah. Oh, man. No, it's not a big game because it's Notre Dame. It's a big game because it's the number 7 team in the country. So if it was number 7 Bowling Green rolling in, it'd be a good game, big game. If it was number 7 Liberty rolling in, would it be just as big? How about number 7 Penn State rolling in? Would it be just as big? Would it be just as big? I mean, these are just questions. Since it's not about Notre Dame, it's about the number 17 rolling in. That's why it's big. If it was number 7 Iowa rolling in, would it be a big game? Would it be just as big? Come on, man. Stop capping. Stop capping. Stop. You know better. You coached in Notre Dame. You know better. You know the vibes. You felt the aura. You've been part of it. You had to coach against a team that had you as their bullet point in their presentation during spring camp and fall camp.
Yep.
At the top of the bulletin board. You know what it feels like to get everybody's best as an assistant coach in Notre Dame. Come on, man. Stop, Cap. I have no problem with everything else you said. That last part, though, big cap. Big cap. And that's where the shade came in. No, this ain't a big game. This isn't a big game because it's Notre Dame.
This is a big game because they're number 7 team in the country.
No.
We seen what the number 10 team can look like. That wasn't a big game.
Facts.
They were number 10. Y'all not even ranked. So
facts. It's like, come on, man. Mike, that was most people in the chat were right on. Like I don't think you were trying to be shady. I think Olin Buchanan was trying to be shady. Listen to the way listen to the shade. Olin Buchanan, man, you've been so shady towards Notre Dame all summer, my brother. All summer. Listen to the end of his question, Left. Listen to what he says. The end of his question, and I'm gonna stop.
He already said it was overhyped.
At Notre Dame, did you ever get the sense that when you were playing a team that it meant, to borrow the SEC phrase, it meant more, to that team when they were playing Notre Dame that it was like their biggest game, or is that mystique thing maybe a little overbilled?
Hear that, Love? Is that mystique thing? Is that mystique thing a little bit overbilled? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You'll see how different your team plays against us and plays the week after.
Okay. Notre Dame players, put overbilled mystique. Put overbilled mystique on your socks, your wristbands. Overbilled. You're overbilled. The mystique is overbilled. Okay. All right. But yet and still, everywhere we go, we sell out your stadium. Okay. He just got me with that. That was funny. I was like, all right, Mike, I'm loving your press conference. You're showing Notre Dame a bunch of love, but that right there.
You don't remember that.
Yeah, that's a little cap right there, bro.
But you got people to answer to. Yeah. Olin Buchanan was definitely throwing shade. Oh yeah.
Definitely throwing shade. It's all good. He tried to lead. I will say this. I love the way Mike Elko was like, come on, man. You trying to lead me down that rabbit hole. I'm not going.
He said it's a loaded question.
Loaded question. I see what you're doing. But you're not about to get me. You're not about to get me.
You said you can't get me like that.
Nah. Lucky Lefty podcast. So Left, interestingly today, of course, the depth chart was released. And Bo Collins or Jaden Thomas at one wide receiver position, Jaden Greathouse or Jaden Harrison at the other. And then tight ends, you had Mike Mitchell Evans and Cooper Flanagan as the top two, Eli Raridan as the second string, and then Jordan Faison or Chris Mitchell. Now, people were looking at the wide receiver position earlier and saying, man, why is Bo Collins ahead of Jaden Thomas? And then why is Jaden Greathouse ahead of Jaden Harrison? And then, oh my God, does this mean that Jordan Faison is starting over Chris Mitchell? And there was a lot of buzz around this. And, I looked at it again in comparison with the other ORs on the depth chart. And I came to realize that the ORs are done alphabetically.
See, that's good. That's good context clue, Sean.
The ORs are listed in alphabetical order. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't think they're like this big clue to who's going to get the most snaps, who's going to start. There are 6 receivers listed. Marcus Freeman said there are 6 guys that are going to play. There it is. That's all I need to hear. You have 6 receivers listed. 6 are going to play.
Now we talked about it. Remember, we talked about how it's only 6 spots, but we have about 9 guys. So I think he said it, 1 for strategy, and 2, he still may not know yet. They still may not know. They got 9 guys with 6 spots and 1 football. It's a lot of math you got to do.
Yeah. Some people are like, man, they got Jaden Osbury or Kingston Vila Muasa. Yeah. A comes before V. It's alphabetical. Oh, man, they got Boubacar before. Yeah. TR comes before Junior Tuilamaka, which is TU. Yeah. I was just like, man, they're doing this in alphabetical order when there's an or. It's as simple as that. Josh Burnham or Bryce Young. B comes before Y. It was really no mystery to it, man. It just wasn't. They simply did it in alphabetical order when it came to the ors. That's it. We'll see 6 wide receivers getting run. And to see Sullivan Absher as the backup right guard, I thought was very interesting. To see Pat Coogan, who was battling his life out at left guard, got some run at left tackle as well after the Jagasaw injury. To see him as the backup center, that's something to think on. Gerby Lambert as the backup right tackle. That was kind of etched in stone the same time that Anthony Knapp and Sam Pendleton became big news about 10 days ago. I said in Friday's show, right now, Steve Angeli's the backup. I would love to see Kenny Minchie and CJ Carr continue to push him during the season. Continue to push him during the season. I would absolutely love that, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, GTB questions, super chats, post them. Post them. We'll get to them coming up shortly. Any questions you have about the depth chart, Mike Elko's presser, Marcus Freeman's presser, the game within itself, type GTB, post a comment or question. We'll get to it shortly. Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, of course. No, love comes before price. In the alphabet, L before P. So for conspiracy theorists out there thinking maybe Notre Dame was saying something with the way they listed the ors, no. Just simply doing it alphabetically. That's it. Jordan Botello holding on to his spot. Jordan Botello, Boubacar Traore, RJ Oben, and Josh Burnham, along with Bryce Young. Those 5 players could end up being the difference in Notre Dame being a really good defense and Notre Dame being an epic defense. If they can apply pressure and go beyond, I know the left is going to love to hear this, go beyond what Marcus Freeman said last year, where he was talking about how great it is just to have pressure. Right? And almost made it seem to some as if the sacks were overrated. You need to get people on the ground. You need to get people on the ground. I truly believe as this game goes on, things are going to get very tight on Texas A&M, especially with the injuries at running back and the interior of their offensive line, which is questionable, very questionable. I think everything is going to get tight. I think the passing game is going to become a problem. And I think Notre Dame is going to be able to pin their ears back and apply pressure to Connor Way. Can these 5 gentlemen, the outside rushers for Notre Dame on that defensive line, can they execute and get the quarterback on the ground, cause turnovers, speed up his process? That's going to be key in this game. Very key in this game. The other surprise, man, Christian Gray won the battle opposite Benjamin Morrison. Christian Gray won the battle opposite Benjamin Morrison. There was no or. There is no or. It is no Christian Gray or Jaden Mickey. Christian Gray is your other starting defensive back. That is absolutely amazing. That is absolutely amazing to hear. It's amazing to hear. So
amazing to hear for a young guy.
Now that goes back to, once again, what did Ben Morrison's father tell you at Ben Morrison's camp about Christian Gray?
That was his guy. Absolutely.
They said his father and Benjamin Morrison felt like Christian Gray was pretty much the best of the bunch.
Yeah, he felt like he was physically the better player than Ben. Physically. He said the only thing Ben got is that his preparation, his technique, and that mental side. But he said physically, Christian Gray got it.
Now, something else that Marcus Freeman pointed out when asked about Christian Gray today, he said what stood out about the young man, he said the physical tools are outstanding. He said, but the amount of work that he's put in, he pointed out how Benjamin Morrison, you see Benjamin Morrison, you see Christian Gray. And they're in the books, and they're in the film room. And Christian Gray is soaking up everything he can get from Ben Morrison. You love to hear that. You love to hear that. And that is a great connection to what you heard about the young man. All he needs to do is turn the corner in preparation. And if he has turned the corner with winning this starting job at the opposite cornerback, if this is the signal that he's turned the corner in preparation, watch out, ladies and gentlemen. Watch out. You might have the best cornerback tandem in the country this year. Flat out.
Yeah.
Flat out. That young man, I definitely think is going to be a first rounder in the NFL draft. Christian Gray, I'm speaking of.
Yes.
I definitely can foresee that. Your punt returner, Jordan Faison or Jaden Greathouse, which makes sense. It was between them and KK. They were getting most of the reps. They had 5 guys taking punts during fall camp, but Jordan Faison and Jaden Greathouse, I like that. I like Jordan Faison in the open field. I do. I like that. Kick return, Jaden. I mean, you went and got Jaden Harrison because he was a All-American kick returner at Marshall. Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. Jaden Harrison and Jadarian Price for me. Jadarian Price showed he could take one to the house as a kick returner. Jaden Harrison was one of the best in the nation the last 2 years. Hey, Notre Dame can be explosive in special teams, and we told you the special teams really stood out in fall camp. Really stood out. Love what I saw from the kickers. Love what I saw from the punter that transferred in. And we'll see, Marty Biaggi, can your special teams take that next step up in this season and make an impact in game 1? We'll see. I think somebody in special teams is going to make a play. I think somebody in special teams is going to make a play left. I really do. Some other notes from Marcus Freeman press conference. It is sweltering heat in the Midwest left. It is almost 100 degrees in Chicago. Similar weather, humid, sweaty down in the South Bend area, which Marcus Freeman said, thank God for this weather this week, because it's going to prepare us for what's to come on Saturday night. He said, we're practicing in the same heat that we're going to be playing in. He said, I'm thankful that it's like this week in South Bend in the Midwest. So that's one thing he pointed out. And also, he talked about the time of his life that he had this camp. He talked about this is the greatest camp he's had health-wise in Notre Dame, with the least amount of injuries. They only had 1 concussion all camp. And even though losing Charles Jagasaw was a big loss, for the most part, outside of Chance Tucker being lost for the season with a torn ACL, the rest of the team is fully healthy and ready to go. You love to hear that. And he gave huge kudos to the strength and the conditioning squad under the guidance of Lawrence Lando and the plan that they worked together to form to get this to be a manifestation. It seems like it's worked out well. No one wants to lose. They're starting left tackle. But even with that loss, he's very happy with the way things went physically and the way his team looks physically coming out of fall camp as they begin practice and preparation for Texas A&M this week.
Exciting stuff.
GTB question left before we get out of here. NC Notre Dame fan, thank you for the GTB. If we are going to run the ball, will that hurt the wide receiver recruiting for next year? For next year's class, don't they want to see Notre Dame throw the ball?
Yeah, we want to see production out of that receiver room, but we're not going to go away from our identity of running the football because, one, we can. You ask any football coach in America, if you have an offensive line like Notre Dame, are you just most likely going to be running it? Absolutely. And we have calls for it, having a left side that's pretty young, but running the ball always sets up the pass. So it's just about when we do set up the pass and we get one-on-ones and we get wide open guys and we get concepts down the field, we just got to hit.
NC Notre Dame fan had another one left. Last question. If Knapp lives up to the hype, what would that mean when Jagasaw comes back next year? I don't think Knapp will want to go to the bench.
Well, at Notre Dame, we've always been really good at retention. And as an offensive lineman, especially after playing and having some success, I'm not leaving. I'm sorry, I'm not going. And I think that's the smarter thing to do for where you're at. There has been a lineman that wanted to go to the NFL that hasn't had the chance to, drafted or not, because of where you are, your technique, and how you stand alone. Once you get out of that competitive Notre Dame room and amongst linemen around the country, you're like, okay, some places just got different information. Every place can have a football play, but only few know how to run that football play the right way. So, yeah, there's a lot of great old linemen out there. But at Notre Dame, you just get a different kind of training that sets you up for your future.
Next GTB question, Tom DeMay. Thank you for tapping in, Tom. How are we feeling about Alsbury? I saw that he was number 2 at 2 different spots. What kind of role do you think he has?
I don't know.
Well, I think he has a tremendous role. I think it speaks to the flexibility of that unit. And he talked about the difference for him this year when he met with the media.
Yeah, I would say, the jump in me learning the playbook, being more comfortable in the defense and just being more, a vocal leader and being more comfortable with the team, I think it's, really helped me jump towards, where I am now. So.
And then Golden's defense is obviously complex. What's it kind of like learning multiple positions?
Right. I think, his NFL-style defense is really going to help us, for the next level in terms of the language, the way you got to vocalize it on the field. And then also, he does a great job of putting, not just the linebackers, but also, edge rushers, safeties and corners at different positions and really moving us around and also disguising us too. So I think he's really done a good job of that.
You have to earn it, of course, but knowing the opportunity is there, how much different does that make things versus last year when obviously you knew who was going to be on the field the bulk of the time?
Right. Going into this year, I would say that, I'm definitely more locked in, definitely more focused, especially with the defense being easier. Definitely feeling more comfortable out there playing. So I would say, that's different from last year.
So that's the young man letting you know he's ready to go. I think they're going to play 5 linebackers. Max Bullock was very honest about that. So once again, the depth chart now is not so much about who's going to get so much more playing time. It's really about the opportunity. And as I said before, the or, he's part of an or at a certain position. And then at the rover position, he's backing up Jalen Sneed. But you can expect him to see him get a lot of snaps, in my opinion. And when I say a lot, I say double digits at rover at some point.
Yeah, I'm just excited to see these guys play, honestly.
Man, Lucky Lefty Podcast, you already know. John Massey with the last question of the night. What kind of offense do you run, left, spread, pro?
I do a little bit of everything. It's kind of run some spread concepts. We're multiple in the run game. We're a power run offense with some vertical, pass game. I'm trying to get more into the play action with this team, but we're working on it. So we're all about our little dump offs and power run.
Oh, you got your little offensive line left? You going power run?
Well, the way we run our power stuff, we try to make numbers uneven and get some extra hats to block. High school, we need a little extra help.
Oh, for sure. Lucky Lefty Podcast. So we'll put something up on the Lucky Lefty Pod Instagram and Twitter tomorrow as we record the preseason special, Players Only. We're going to put up something for you to ask questions because we're going to have fan questions for the former Notre Dame players. Post those questions. We'll make sure they answer those leading into the season. They'll talk offense. They'll talk defense. They'll talk third-year Marcus Freeman. They'll talk about, the docuseries and a lot of other things concerning the business of Notre Dame. So for Left, SD2 Mics, thank you guys for tapping in with us this Monday night. It's game week. The excitement is, absolutely amazing to feel. Social media, the shows, everybody's talking about this matchup. And it's only big because of the number 17 coming to College Station. That's the only reason it's big, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right.
It. Has nothing to do with Notre Dame. The number 17 is coming to College Station, and that's why it's a big game. For Left, I'm SD2 Mics. We'll see you guys. Remember, Monday, Wednesday, Friday for us. Monday, Wednesday, Friday for us. And we'll be posting more shows and more shorts and reels on Tuesday and Thursday. And don't forget, Wednesday, patreon.com. Season preview, Players Only. Don't miss it.
Don't miss it.
Have a great Monday night. Most of all, continue to make sure that you spin it different.